everybody, welcome back to Connerty Meadows Farm. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ricky, and today we are going to do a quick garden tour. I think the last one I did was about 2 weeks ago, so I thought it was time for an update considering we've got a lot of it in and things are growing well. But I also thought that I would start the garden tour this time down by the chicken coops versus in the front of the house, just to switch it up some. Down here, this was my garlic bed. Unfortunately, the chickens and the guineas decided that digging it up and throwing the garlic around was a much more fun thing to do, so I actually lost pretty much all the garlic. You can see the little green sprouts that survived their lovely fun, and that's what I'm left with. It is what it is. Some things just don't work out the way you want them to. Last year this bed was actually peppers and tomatoes, and they did fairly well. I do have some extra peppers and tomatoes that need a home, so I may end up just filling in some of the places back here with them, just to fill in the spots and use up the plants that I have. This over here was all of my blackberries. I had, I think, 11 or 12 plants. Not a single one of them survived this winter. And it seems that there is a little bit of a berry shortage. In fact, Northern Ontario, where my family lives, did not get sent a whole lot of berries to any of their nurseries up there. So that kind of sucks. I will be on the lookout for some more blackberries. The place that I normally order from, I couldn't actually even bring them in this year. They didn't have any either. It was a really hard winter. This here is a rose of Sharon. I don't think it's coming back either. Again, I think we've just had a really hard winter and a lot of stuff aren't coming back. So where the sunflowers have placed themselves, I actually think I'm going to let a lot of them just go and do their sunflowery thing. I'm going to take these ones and spread them out a bit, just because then at least there's something in these garden beds instead of what I had planned in the garden beds. And this is a hot plant. We brought this with us from our other place. It completely exploded this year, so that's kind of neat. And I did start working on painting this chicken coop. Almost done, a few little bits on this one, and then I can move on to the other coops. This coop is home to lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of little babies now. I have 3 mums, I think, in here with babies. So they're growing really well. You can see there's lots of grass in this coop. This is another garlic bed, and this one's actually doing okay. I had garlic in here last year as well, and it did really well in here. So these ones are okay. The chickens didn't decimate these ones, which is good. Down here, not so well, but in the middle, it looks pretty good. Over there, where you can't see, I have some mulberry trees. They're doing pretty good. And then there's an apple tree in there. It's also doing okay. Garden is, for the most part, all in at this point, except for succession sowing. My celery that I started from seed is doing amazing. Last year I grew celery for the first time, and it was really cool. Never done that before, so this year I started it from seed. And so we have carrots, celery, onions, some yellow climbing beans, tomatoes, and obviously lots of weeding to do, even though I weeded yesterday. Rhubarb is setting up really nice in these 2 beds. This middle bed here needs some more rhubarb. We have friends of ours that have a huge rhubarb patch, and they don't have a lot of strawberries, so we're going to do a swap. I have some strawberries I'm going to give them in exchange for some rhubarb. I do have some garlic in between the arches here and in between the arches there, so I am not out of garlic. It's just, you know, not what I was hoping for. I got some lettuce down in here and some more carrots, tomatoes down on the end, some more lettuce here, some random carrots. Some of the carrots actually seeded themselves from last year. Some of my carrots went to seed and I left them, and I'm finding random carrots in lots of different places. I'm letting them go. It's fine. I don't mind at all. In the water trough down there is the dill and some volunteer sunflowers. Peas on the end of the garden bed here. So one thing that we did change is this bed over here actually used to be hascaps, and they've all since moved. Oh, hello, Nala girl. Oh, don't fall. Hello. Hello. Who's a good girl. All right, sorry about that. Let's pop back over here. Okay, so these were hascaps. They were too close together. I've actually moved the hascaps in the orchard, and I'll show you that in a bit. But what I did instead was I took a bunch of raspberry runners and I put them in here, but I also ordered some more raspberries. So this is going to be another raspberry bed. Yes, I know, but I really love raspberries, so, you know, it is what it is. Nala, Gucci. And I think on the last tour I showed you guys the bunnies. So I'll pop in here and I'll show you guys these bunnies. They're all hopping around and super cute. Oh, not in that one. Oh, there they are. Hi, Bun Buns. Hi, Bun Buns. So cute. All right, so back to the garden here. Basically, these 4 raised beds are pretty much a repeat of each other. Depending on the front, there might be onions, there might be carrots, there might be radish, celery. The front area here in front of the tomatoes, I do switch it up, but generally speaking, they're kind of all the same. I did put dahlias in the middle of each of the beds, so it'd be really cool to see those colors come up this year. Another random carrot, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. And our raspberries have exploded again. We're hoping to actually get some raspberries this year, which by the looks of things we should do, because if you look very closely here, we do have some raspberries forming. So that'll be nice. Last year they just got really big and we didn't get any raspberries because the cold came before they came into raspberries. So these raspberries are growing on last year's canes. So if you look here, I trimmed these canes back to about 18 inches to 2 feet. And then this spring's berries always grow off of these canes. And then the new ones, so like this one here, this one has grown from the base, and this one will give us raspberries this fall. So I get 2 crops of raspberries using the varieties that I have and the way that I have. The other thing that I ended up having to do, so I don't know, for those of you that have followed from last year, on each of these posts, we had grapes planted. And the idea was, with this beautiful pergola, that the grapes would go up and over top and look beautiful. Well, the raspberries crowded out the grapes and that didn't happen. So I actually dug the grapes up this spring and I moved them to my front arbor, and I will show you that, and you can see they're much happier there. And then this is my kiwi. And it's doing pretty good. And this is a hardy kiwi. And yes, it does grow in Canada. Unfortunately, unlike other kiwis, because this kiwi is a Canadian cold hardy kiwi, it actually doesn't get much bigger than a grape. And its flesh you don't have to peel off, you just eat it just like a grape. So it is a little bit different than the kiwi that you're thinking that's bigger and you have to peel it. The taste is still the same, it's just small like a grape and you just pop it in your mouth and you eat it. So but those are what grow in Canada, so that's why I have them. There are 2 kinds of kiwis that grow in Canada. One needs a pollinator and one is self-pollinating. The ones that I have are self-pollinating, so they both will produce fruit, whereas the other kiwi, you need a male and a female, but only the female produces fruit, so you're really growing 2 plants and only getting one that's giving you fruit. I prefer to have both give me fruit, so that's why I have this variety. All right, so here in the garden, which unfortunately the cats have decided is a litter box, I have not managed to get the mulch down in the middle of the rows here, so I'm gonna have to do that. All this green popping up, this is potatoes. I actually managed to find some purple potatoes this year. Super, super cool. A friend of mine told me about these purple potatoes. I thought I'd try them out. So part of this row here is all purple potatoes. So we're looking forward to trying that flavor this year. And this is also potatoes here. I decided, since my trellising for squash was so successful last year, that I'd actually do 2 of them this year. So I have one trellis here and I have another trellis here, and they'll be butternut squash. In the middle here, I found a volunteer in the garden in a spot that wasn't appropriate, so I stuck it here. I have no idea what kind of squash this is, but it could be a patty pan squash. It could be, I don't know what. We'll figure it out. And it has room to meander over here over the potatoes and meander over this way, because I plant the corn next to where I plant the squashes and pumpkins on purpose, because I want them to have lots of room to meander through. So that's why I just stuck that one there, because the ones that are on this trellis and this trellis will climb up, and that one can spread. Then over here, my sister and I did a little bit of a swap, and she had this called Blue Hubbard squash. So I planted some Blue Hubbard squash. Again, they're going to climb, so they have lots of room all through that area to climb. And then I have a patty pan squash and a patty pan squash. We quite like those ones. This hill here is for pumpkin. It hasn't come up yet. It's just taking a little bit longer. Corn's popped up already. Down on the end down there, I have another little hill for a pumpkin, so there'll be a pumpkin on each side, and one can climb this way, one can climb this way, all throughout the corn. And I can see the cats used the litter box there as well. I have some broccoli here. They're doing really, really well. Obviously, I have some damage already. I've got to get out here and start treating. And then I have some bush beans down here. And then we're on to my tomatoes. I do need to get one more trellis here. I'm going to get another trellis identical to that one. And I did have it, except that I commandeered it for my 2 trellises over here, so I have to get another trellis. But that's okay. So my tomatoes are in. It's going to be cold tonight. I don't know if I'm going to cover them or not. There's a few that are really not doing so well. I do have backup tomatoes. For whatever reason, and it happens sometimes during transplant, you lose a few. I do have backup tomatoes. I'm just going to fill those places in probably tomorrow, because we're dipping down into a little bit cooler temperature tonight, so I don't want to shock them. And I'll put them tomorrow. Oh, look, pumpkin. All right, and the bean trellis is on this side. So our garden, I actually did a complete swap. I had beans and then potatoes and then a whole bunch of, I look at what I did the year before. I have a garden book, and I look at what I do the year before, and I try to make sure nothing is in the same place as before. So last year, actually, the tomatoes were over here beside the strawberries. This year we have the strawberries, and then I have some lettuce and some amaranth and flowers, and then I have the bean trellis, and then I have the tomatoes. So everything is kind of moved around a bit. I do try to do that in the in-ground garden. I don't worry about it so much with the raised garden. All right, let's take you over to the orchard. And as you can see, it's changed quite a bit. So I have this black fabric barrier down between most of the trees. I don't have them down between this tree here because I don't have anything planted, because quite often when we come with a vehicle or the quad in the dump trailer, or when we're working, we will come in through this space here. We will come in between these trees, and we will go down the orchard to get to what we need to down there. And you'll see there's no black fabric down there, and there's no black fabric down there. So I can get in through all of those with the quad. I usually come in through that last garden bed and drive straight between that tree and that tree to get to where I need to go to round back up and around. So I very carefully placed out things in this orchard in a way that made sense for us to still maneuver through it, but it also helps us to, when we put the goat fencing up, we just butt it up very, very close to the edge of that black fabric. And now I no longer have to cut in between these areas. I still have to cut between there and there and there, but I don't have to worry about all of this area so much. So let me show you up close. You can definitely tell the hascaps that we had from last year versus this year. So this is a new one, popped right up, looking great. This is the last year's one, and so on and so forth, all the way down the line. And what I have done is female, male, female, male, female, male, so on and so forth. Now the nice thing with hascaps is both the male and the female produce food. So that's excellent. Now down here, we switch from apple to cherry. These last 5 trees are cherry trees. So in between these ones, I have put blueberries. Again, these were bare root blueberries, just came in, And as you can see, there is a little bit of green coming along. This one's not quite as happy as the rest, but it's there. And there is new growth coming up, so I'm happy about that. Now here, I finally got this all trimmed up. You can see I've got there's like a line of stuff here. This is all of the elderberry that over the years I've been just grabbing the sticks and sticking them in the ground in the spring. And while sometimes the sticks themselves don't make it, or the first year the sticks will produce green, the second year I found that the sticks don't do anything and they die, but their root system shoots off. Look, there's 2 little elderberry plants here. And that came from the root of this. And this has actually happened a number of times down this row. All right, so let's finish up here. So we have blueberries here. And then again, we're hascaps. So the male and the female hascaps all along here. And these are the ones, you can see these big ones were the ones that I had with us last year. And then of course, it's very easy to see which ones are my new ones. I was really worried this one wasn't going to make it, but there's lots of fresh new growth in there, which is excellent. So I'm really happy with the way this looks, the way this has turned out. This will make things a lot easier, maintenance a lot easier, not having to weed. I also made sure that each of these areas was burned in a very big hole, enough that they can send off all the baby shoots they want. So you can see these guys have very shallow root system, and they will send off a lot of new shoots. So I made sure that each of them have enough room to do that. All right, oh, the goatees and the cow. All right, well, let's pop over to the front of the house now. Look at my snowball bush. So this tree bush thing, actually the goats absolutely destroyed last season, but it's come back. Sorry, I've got a little brush pile there I've got to clean up. And some lavender here. And I had sunflowers growing all through the garden. So before I planted this year's garden, I grabbed a bunch of them and I just stuck them up here. If they live, they live. If they die, they die. Anyway, rose bushes are doing really good. So good, in fact, they're shooting off this way. I need to dig them up and swing them back into here. But this will be really nice once it all comes up and looks good. Over here we have another snowball bush. This one is doing really good too. I love these guys. They're my favorite. So funny. They don't even smell, but they're so cute. So cute. And here is our spiral herb garden. I was really hoping my sage would come back. Usually sage does come back, but I think last winter was just a doozy of a winter, so I will have to replace that. But everything else in this is doing really well. Nice and green and happy. And over here, so this is a flower bed. This is one of the new ones. I have yarrow. I had planted another kind of flower there, but I haven't seen any signs of any of them coming up. So while I have some dahlias in the middle here, I might just put some more dahlias right in there. Cosmos and zinnias. So over here on this pergola arbor is where I actually ended up putting the rest of the grapes. I dug them all up and I put them here. So we have a Concord Grape here. This is a John Davis rose, and it actually already gave me one beautiful little bloom. It's on the way out now, but this is a climbing rose, so I'm hoping to see it do some climbing. And then this was the surprise grape from Hardy Fruit Tree Nurseries. It did not like being moved. I haven't seen any sign of life, so I actually ended up digging up the other Concord grape and setting it here, and it's alive. So if this one lives, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. This one's there for it. And then we have this. Okay, so, before we move on, this was my beautiful rose my cousin found for me last year. We had a similar one in Alberta. It died. The original rose died what we're seeing here is below the graft line. So I've let it go because I'm really curious to see what rose they use to graft. And at the end of the day, it's still a rose. So it'll still be pretty. I just don't know what kind it is. Then over here, there is the other Concord Grape, and it's doing super good. This is the John Davis Rose. And then again, this is the original Concord Grape I put in. There's no signs of life. So I went ahead and I added the other Concord Grape, and it is alive. So we'll see what happens. There is strawberry plants there that are out of the asparagus bed, and we will show you that in a minute. And then this is another flower bed. We have straw flowers, bergamot, there's dahlias in here, and more straw flowers. And we've got this guy all planted up as well. There's some weeding that needs to get done, but it'll look nice. So the strawberries in the pots there are from the asparagus bed, and we'll pop over there in a second. I'll just go that way now, I guess. So Thomas is still working on this bed. He doesn't really have a lot of time given that he's doing work during the day and then school work at night, but this will be the asparagus bed. This one needs one more level, and then the other one will be here. So this was actually the asparagus and the strawberry. So all those strawberries in pots will come back into these beds when they're ready, but for now, at least they're in pots. You can see down here, this strawberry bed that we made is doing fantastic. So many flowers. It's super happy down here. Very thick. So the asparagus that I actually managed to rescue from the 3 areas that I had them in here, we put into these pots. And so once the beds are done, they'll go back into the bed. It is not recommended that you move asparagus. This is not a recommended thing to do. I just had no other way to save them. So unfortunately, this is what I'm doing. And some of the strawberries are in these pots as well. Hi, Molly. Hi, Molly. Yes. Oh, hello, Sylvester. All right, so here, you can see I also have, hi, buddy. You can see I also have the black fabric down here, and this is the blueberries. I was getting really sick and tired of weeding these blueberries because the grass would just encroach on them so much. So I finally said, well, if I am fabric burying the ones out in the orchard, I can do these ones too. So these row here have all fabric barrier. The one on the end did not make it. That's okay. I have one in a pot. When I ordered the 4 down on the end of the orchard there, it was actually a group of 5. So one is in a pot, and it will be moved there once we're done building these beds. Just give them a little bit more area to walk and to work. I know these ones are there, but it just to give a little more leeway. That up there is hydrangeas. They were at the back of the house, and I moved them there. I didn't know that they would actually live, but they seem to not only live, but be producing. So that'll be really pretty. It'll be like a nice row of hydrangeas. Then lilacs and roses, which is very neat. And if you look carefully on that bush there, you can see a little pink rose. So very nice. And then down here we have our plum tree, and then another blueberry plum tree, blueberry apple tree. And I did not put fabric barrier around these guys. I may actually at some point do this whole line also with fabric barrier, but for now I've just kind of left it. All right, and let's go over to the front of the house here. Guys, can you see that? Can you see that pink blowing in the wind? This is the rose that I brought with us from our old place. I can't even begin to describe how nice this rose smells. So I call these antique roses because this thing at our old place, there was a number of these roses, and they had been there for decades. And they actually grow to be over 12 feet tall, these bushes. So I think they're more trees than bushes, but the smell of these guys is absolutely stunning. And I just love to dry the petals and use them on the tops of soaps. And I make some rose water and all sorts of stuff. But look at this. It's just loaded with, absolutely loaded with buds. So that's exciting. I was worried because here we actually had half the tree die and break. And so I cut it back, and a lot of new shoots have come up. So that's super exciting. And then, do you see it? Do you see it? Do you see it? Do you see it? My cousin found me another one of my roses. So this rose is the same as what was in the front, which now we don't know what the one in the front is, but we'll find out. But I moved it closer to the house because this one does really well and that one does really well. And I think it's just because the heat of the house makes it so it's okay through the winter. So that is why it's close to the house. And it'll be really pretty when it gets really big, even with the peonies there next to it. I may have to like hold the peonies up somehow, but at any rate, she's there and beautiful. And the peonies are going to put on a show for us this year, which is super exciting. So I brought these from our old place. I brought dark pink, light pink, and white. Well, we lost a number of them. And from what I can see, it looks like we lost the light pink and the white. That said, there's a bush here, and then there's a bush here that have not put any buds off yet. So I might have a light pink and a white in there yet. Either way, we are going to have this beautiful dark pink that is very much like my rose over there, which I'm super, super excited about. And this one's a white rose. And it is also putting off buds like absolutely crazy. And here we have my little front raised beds. So I got my basil in here, and then I just planted this with radish yesterday. That is all dahlias back there that once they sprout I'll be selling. I have a few here as well. And then this is lettuces, kales. It's just really nice to have it close to the house so I can just pop out and grab it. And then I have my lemongrass plant and my bay leaf. Both of these were outside last year, came in for the winter, and now are back outside. And over here, this is all thyme, all sorts of thyme, wild thyme, lemon thyme, other thyme, all sorts of thymes. And then this is all chamomile, double chamomile, Roman chamomile, any kind of chamomile you can think of. I sprinkled seeds in here because I don't really care what the differences are. This will be really nice. The front garden beds are looking good. And then over here we have some raspberries in pots. These are going to my mom. And then I swapped some tomatoes for a goji berry, so that'll be interesting. I'm going to put that in the one chicken coop near the mulberries. This little guy here is the blueberry that we're going to put down on the end. I have some raspberries there as well. And I have a little cherry dwarf tree that I kind of rescued, and I've up potted it like 3 or 4 times now. All right. This is a load of soil that's ready to go in those garden beds when they're done. I've got the goats out today, the cow is out, and some babies out. And then over here are my peppers. This is not all my peppers. Due to the oncoming cold of tonight, I decided leaving some of the peppers in smaller pots would make it easier, so they are actually in the house again for the day, and I will put them in pots probably tomorrow. But at any rate, these guys are thriving in their pots. Tonight they will all go into the garage, and then tomorrow they'll be able to go out straight into the garden, and I will just put them between the rows, probably between the strawberry rows, or line them along the garden. I haven't decided yet, but they definitely will be going out that way. Then they're outside and easy to transport in the fall. Usually in the fall, this chicken tractor here will put the cover on it, and we'll put tarp on the front and the back, and one of the really cold nights we just pop them in there, and it's kind of like a greenhouse. It stays pretty warm. It just extends our life with them. Oh, there's a little baby. So yeah, these guys are doing really, really well. I potted them up last week, and a number of them are already setting some fruit. So we're gonna have peppers early this year, which is what I was really hoping to be able to get. I started these guys super early this year. I wanted to be able to have peppers. Pepper harvest always seems to be a bit slow. All right, guys, and that's it. I just wanted to do a quick garden tour. I swear I felt like I was talking 90 miles an hour, but to get through, that's what we had to do. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us on the farm. Hope you enjoyed the garden tour. Any questions, feel free to ask me down below, and we'll see you next time.